Coach, you've been with the Legends since day one, and that alone says something about your commitment to the community. But you and Ann also are a key part of just a number of local charities in this area, constantly giving back to Collin County. And so we just really appreciate you being here. You've been in professional basketball for, I believe, over 45 years now, and you've coached at every level of the game, including 5 different national teams. I think it's safe to say you have seen a little bit of adversity, both personally and in the lives of those around you. So first, let's talk a little bit about what that looks like.
As far as coaching all those years, I'll tell you, I'm glad I did the coaching in the years before all the social media craze that's going on now. It was easier in those days, I got to tell you. I mean, things tended to stay in the locker room a little bit more than they do now. And, you know, a player or two might have an opinion and, you know, they'd talk about the stupid coach or whatever. But now that goes out and you've got, you know, 7,349 followers chiming in. Yeah, you know, that's what I was thinking. So anyway, I'm thankful that I was able to be involved in basketball for so long. I started my first coaching job in 1959. Yeah, count them up. That's 62 years ago. And as Brittany said, coached every level. Started out junior high, then high school, small college, major college, ABA, NBA, Europe, Puerto Rico, the NBA D League in those days, and coached around the world. Fortunately, able to coach with 5 different nations, national teams, and speak on basketball in 30 some odd countries. And it's been a great experience to have been able to do that.
That's incredible, Coach. And before we kind of get into our topic of adversity, I want to talk a little bit more about your coaching. Since you have coached at every level of the game and you really did work your way up, talk a little bit about the work ethic that it takes to stick with one specific career path for so many years.
Well, that's a good question. It's kind of hard to stay employed in basketball that long. First of all, you got to live that long. So I'll be 84 my next birthday. So that's a challenge in itself. But as far as sticking with it, I studied to be a pastor and and actually was ordained as a pastor in the Christian church. And when I was ready after graduation to go to graduate school, to seminary, my major professor called me up and 2 weeks before I was supposed to begin seminary and said, you know, I've been thinking about you and think maybe you should try to work a year before you go to the expense of seminary and so on. And if you think it's a good idea, I've already got a job lined up for you. And you'd be coaching this junior high just about 4 miles from the college where I went to school at what is known as Milligan University right now. It was Milligan College then. And I was a player there. It's a long story. I was 6-time all conference, by the way. Oh my goodness. No wonder you're so old. We were in 2 conferences. And so anyway, that's one of my claims to fame, other than Brett, I hate to tell you, you know, just hate to brag, but I'm now in 11 halls of fame.
11?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm in some baseball ones too, so two of them. So anyway, that's what happens when you get old. Yeah, they don't give you any more money; they just give you awards. So that's just a crazy thing. But so anyway, if my professor would have said to join the army, I'd have done that. You know, whatever he said. He he was a person that I had a lot of confidence in, and I had such an experience that first year with those young kids in uh, low development area economically, and it just made such a difference in their lives. Their goal was to get out of 8th grade and quit school. Again, this is a long time ago, and in Tennessee, you could do that. And that was what they intended to do. Not only did almost all of them that I had go on, some of them went on and played in high school and so forth. So it was quite a thing. Our junior high scored over 100 points 4 times. Eat your heart out, Golden State and Houston, you people that are running up the score. We just had 6-minute quarters. Hey, that's halftime in your game. So anyway, that's how I got into it. And my goal was to be a small college coach because I had played it and I liked it. And I liked the life that my coach was leading. And he lasted till he was 95. And I was able to visit him just a few months before he died last year. And so, you know, age 27, I already worked my way up to be a small college coach.
Wow.
And I did that for 9 years. And then that's the last job I ever applied for or interviewed for. That was in 1965. Every job I've had since 1965, they called me. And I did an interview, and I didn't apply. Now, I applied for some jobs in that period of time that I didn't get. I interviewed for some jobs I didn't apply for that I didn't get. But whether it was wherever it was around the world in the last, whatever that is, 65, it's 55, 56 years. Didn't apply and didn't interview. And so I think that that was a decision that God led me to make. I think, you know, that's what I was intended to be. And so it's worked out, you know, well, you know, very happy to have been able to do all those things and to know all you people. Your faces on the screen are all very familiar. Some of you I know very well. One of you played basketball with one of my sons, as a matter of fact, in college. That's Vincent Vitito. So anyway, all you folks, so good to see your mugs. I miss being there. I got to tell you, you know, I'm ready to play ball again.
Yeah, we have definitely missed it as well, and we've missed you. But well, it's pretty incredible to have a career path that you really didn't even try to get to, and to have all of those awards and everything, and to be able to say, I mean, you've interviewed and applied for one job, so that's impressive. Well, so you've seen successful people and players at every level of the game. Have you noticed a commonality in the way that they handle tough situations?
Not so much. You know, it's pretty much an individual process. I think that one learns at an early age, and hopefully as one matures, they are able to develop better responses. Some people do, some people don't, but you know, when you're a little person, you see adversity and, you know, you start yelling, crying, screaming. Well, some people never grow out of that. So anyway, athletes, excuse me, who get to the professional level have generally learned to deal with the ups and downs. And that's one of the beauty of sports. You can learn that outside of your regular experience, whatever that might be, and apply that. It applies to not only the ups and downs, but how you deal with pressure and how you deal in relationships. I think basketball is ideally put in a position for relationship development, because there only being 5 players out there at a time instead of 11 or whatever that the other team sports tend to have, 9 in baseball and so forth. And while in each of those sports there are no unnecessary positions, everybody has a role in all the sports. Once the quarterback doesn't show up, well, that ball goes, it's going to be a wild scramble and be a touchdown at the other end. What if the catcher doesn't show up? Well, the pitcher's got to pitch and chase it down, if they, that sort of thing. So, but in basketball, there's just 5 of you, and you're so totally dependent on one another on both ends of the court. You got to play offense and defense. And and then to do it well, you've got to learn how to care about one another and to get the other person involved and so on and so forth. It's just a good learning platform. And generally, most players that come out of basketball, even say at any level, high school or even maybe lower, they do learn some of these skills because of the nature of the game. That was invented by a pastor, by the way, and that was developed in the YMCAs around the world, which was the Young Men's Christian Association, and they took the C seriously back then at these organizations, and some do still today, some not as much as formerly when they were directed by pastors. Ironically, I'll say one more thing, that when I coached in China with the national team of China, conservative like me coaching a bunch of communists, you can imagine that. No, these guys were wonderful, wonderful people. And I stood on the court where basketball was first played in China. Now, it was invented in 1891, and one would think it took 30 years or 40 years or whatever. Back then, there were nothing but slow boats to China. Now, John may be the oldest one to know that song, Slow Boat to China. But at any rate, they started playing the first basketball in China in 1894 at the Tianjin YMCA. And I was there. I stood on the court.
That's incredible. Well, you spoke about the importance of relationships in small teams, and I think we see that on a daily basis here at the Legends. Being a small staff, it is key that we all work together and that we kind of, are constantly aware of where the other one is. And if one of us doesn't show up or one of us is down for a little while, it's definitely felt. So we're speaking to a room of small business owners, small business leaders, who can definitely feel that as well. What would you say is the best way, or best advice that you can give them to keep their staffs motivated through this time where we're kind of facing adversity both internally and externally?
Well, it's going to vary with the situation, obviously. Um, we're talking about overcoming adversities, I think is right. I mean, that's been a theme today.
Right.
And when you're in the various businesses, while there is commonality, there's also a uniqueness to each situation. And how you deal with the stress involved, not only in your own office, but deal with the stress of those who are working for you or with you, are going to vary on an individual basis. But I just want to say that in some things that I had in mind about adversity in the first place was, when you asked me about this, was that you have right now, there are basically three kinds of adverse situations that we're all forced to deal with. One is of the pandemic type of COVID. But even in times when we'll get through this, there'll still be the threats of the tornadoes and the floods and the economic things, hurricanes, just all sorts of, there's always some sort of widespread threat to everybody in your area. Then there's the political and sociological changes, differences that can have a multitude of factors involved: cultural differences, economic miseries, bullying of various kinds, and then you've got your personal adversities that we all must go through, and it could be health, or it can be the loss of a relationship. It can be a friend, can be a spouse, can be a mother, father, daughter. I mean, the son, those are the worst, to lose a child. But even losing a friendship can be very upsetting and cause depression and so forth. And so there are just some responses that I think that we need to be ready to make. In the pandemic style, we have to be prepared, and then must follow protocol as is demanded by the situation, instead of going crazy about such protocols. Now, if you are unreasonable demands, that's one thing. But then, as far as in the social political, the big thing is, don't play the blame game when things start going wrong. We're kind of built to do that. We don't like to be criticized. We don't like to have the blame put on us. Or when things go wrong, we don't want to deal with that. It wasn't our fault, it's somebody else's fault. But we, again, we don't want to play the victimhood role, particularly as a leader in your business. You want to get to the source of things, but without immediately trying to blame somebody for what's going wrong. Get to fixing it right away, the best way you can. And hey, bad things happen to everybody. So, you and I, we're not victims. This is what happens in life. Wake up. And then finally, when you are in a situation where you're nonetheless feeling like things are going bad and they're not your fault, and maybe you are a victim, the thing to do is to concentrate on thankfulness, on the things that have put you in the position that you're in, the things that there are always so many things to be thankful for that far outnumber whatever today's problem or situation might be. And you don't want to let whether it's the relational issue or whether it's a personal health issue that are facing, and it can be life-threatening. You can't let the negatives that are out there, the adverse situations, whatever the causes, to get you into a state that leads to depression. And depression is a big issue in our societies, and you must be alert for that in your life and then in those around you, and look for the signs, particularly of those around you, so that you can be a help to those people. We talk about mental issues, depression, as if sometimes they're just things that always happen to other people we don't know anything about, but that's not the case. And as leaders, it's up to each of us to be able to let people know they're not alone, and that there's someone here to help, and it's you. And even if that's you helping yourself, and it all starts with yourself, and then you need to be others oriented to look for those signs and to be in a position to help others. So anyway, I've been in a lot of adverse situations. Most of my high school teammates are all gone now. Most of my college teammates are gone. My best friend from beginning of time is gone. My parents are gone. My sister's gone, my only sibling. And so it's easy, to, and I mentioned, hey, all those jobs that were offered to me, they didn't all last forever, by the way. and there were those moments. Although out of all the jobs that I had, didn't really get fired for it. I didn't get fired to Mavericks. I haven't been fired here. I didn't get fired as a coach at the Bucks, and so forth. So I didn't get fired in college. So, but sometimes you just move on. But anyway, when things have been bad, I've had my faith to lean on, and as a Christian, it's that particular faith, obviously. But I think that it's, when you have things going wrong, most of us do need a higher power and to help them through, and that can be you as the leader in your business. It's often the coach on the team, and I'm sure most of you consider yourselves as coaches on your team, because I have spoken many times on a coach is a teacher is a coach, or a leader is a coach and is a leader. So I'm sure you all relate to that.
Absolutely. And if you don't consider yourself a coach, I think that you probably should. So to build on that metaphor a little more, tell us about, you're going into halftime, your team is down big, so it just looks hopeless. What are you saying to them at that moment? And does that change based on kind of the team's record for the year? If they're a team that's winning a lot versus a team that's, 2-20, does that speech adjust?
Well, I've got to say that I coached actually 53 years, including the pre-professional. Well, I was getting paid, but so they're all professional. But before the ABA, NBA, and so forth, there were times that I was known to make a rather demonstrative response. And there are moments when you may want to show the evil side of you.
Call that passionate.
Yeah, there we go. Your people need to know there is a point at which if they cross that, there is a bit of a price to pay. Now, so I think the most overt one was when I was in Portland one time, and we were playing so badly with a good team that I upset the table that had the Gatorade in it. However, that is something that I've told coaches in general that, and I'll tell you as leaders, that you have to look at situations as if you were in an old Western movie. And back in the days when we watched so many Westerns as kids, the bad guy we knew he had 6 bullets, and he would be firing away, and there's 2, man, he's already used up 6, and he has the hero dead to rights, and he pulls the click, he's out of bullets. And so you got to look at yourself as having maybe a 38 that only has 5 bullets, and you want to end up the season with still some bullets in the chamber. You better be careful how you use any really strong reactions when things go wrong. And so my 99% approach was to tell them what we need to do. Here's 2, 3 things we're not doing like we need to do, but mainly here's what we need to do to get this thing turned around, to get going and playing our game and not theirs. And so you have to be, the answer quickly is you must be solution oriented when you're faced with this kind of situation with an employee, and in your own decision making.
And I think that, I mean, we talked a little bit earlier about some of the great players that you've coached, but we didn't even begin to touch on that list. So I think a key there too is to surround yourself with those great players who are coachable. How would you advise these business owners to build that team around them?
Look for character, do some background checking. I mean, there's some roles that require less checking, and you might take people that don't really pass muster on what you want in an ideal situation, but there is something about this person that you think is worth starting at a little lower level and building him up and kind of in a sense saving this person. But for key positions, you definitely need to look for previous success and character, and not just with the references. Everybody, if they're anything at all, can find 2 or 3, 4 people to say something good about them. But you need to find where they've been, and if possible, find somebody within that organization or that may have dealt with that company, or that you think might know this person, have experienced something with that person, and see what the impressions are. I'm talking about a key position now. So in basketball, I believed in from the beginning, and And they do that with the Mavericks. They do look at character, and they're, you know, you'll take a chance on one if you have a strong um, team or office, operation, whatever. If you believe you've got a strong, loyal crew of people, you can probably take one who's a little bit shaky and put him in this environment, in this environment, and can maximize this person and end up, you know, again, helping and changing that person's life. And you just got to know if it doesn't work out, you have to know when to pull the plug, because one person can spoil the next person and the next person.
Absolutely. When I interviewed with the Legends the first time, Malcolm said, hey, look, we don't need anybody. We're just looking to add somebody to the team that we like, somebody that's going to make us even better. So that's what we're looking for. And that's what we continue to look for to this day. Somebody that's going to fit in well, and it's worked well for us. But you coached Kobe his rookie year, and I've heard you tell some stories about that and how that went. And that, I think, whether he liked it or not, obviously helped shape him as a player and as a person. So talk a little bit about that, about coaching such a great player, such a future star in that very first season in the NBA.
Yeah, that's a case where we knew the talent when we signed him up. We gave up a Hall of Fame player, Vlade Divac. He wasn't Hall of Fame yet, but he was on his way, and already a great player for us. And we gave him up for the rights to Kobe. And but we brought Kobe to what was already a good team. We'd already won 53 games the year before and had just added Shaquille O'Neal. So we were adding Shaquille O'Neal to a 53 win team minus Vlade. And of course, Shaq is better than Vlade, even though they're both Hall of Fame players. But you have to give to get. And so we got Kobe. And it was hard for him because he was playing behind a player named Eddie Jones, who was an all-star each of the first 2 years of Kobe's career. And, you know, he couldn't knock a player like that out of the lineup. And then he was too small at that time physically to play forward. He only weighed about 180 pounds at 6'6", and he played best at 210. So he just came in with a kid's body still, but with incredible skills. And he wanted to play. He was used to being the man, and it was hard for him to take a not a secondary role, but not even a tertiary role, but a minor role on a very good team that won 56 games his rookie year. And Shaq missed 30 of those games, 31 of those games. So we had a very good team, but he had to refine his game. And when LeBron came into the league at similar, well, he was a year older. Kobe was just 17 when we signed him and turned 18 just before his first season. LeBron looked like he was 30 years old, you know, as a rookie. I mean, he looked the same as he does today, basically. Incredible athlete and strong and big. And and he went to a team that hadn't been beating anybody. So he started out from day one, the man, and he could do anything. He was going to play anyway. And so he didn't refine his game early on. Well, Kobe learned to do that. And he later told me that, you know, that was the right thing to hold him back, but he didn't like it. But now, having said that, the second year, he still was a reserve, but he was sixth man, and such a good sixth man that he was runner-up sixth man of the year in the league at age 19 on a 61 win team. And even that team was 61 wins with Shaq missing 22 games. So, which was the second best record in the league behind the Bulls, who won it, and Utah, who eliminated us in the Final Four. But you know, Kobe will have been gone a year next week. And I will remember that day, that afternoon, that Sunday afternoon. I was there at the Mavericks, and the rumor went out that Kobe's plane went down. And I was interviewed at that game by three different cameras and a couple radio stations and so forth. And when we didn't even know what had happened yet in that afternoon, it all was rumors, and such a terrible day.
So I think you touched on this a little bit, but I mean, we could coach an entire session on just Mamba mentality, of course, but you talk about a guy who really came in not top dog and pushed himself and built himself into that. And I think that says a lot about him and a lot about the people that surrounded him, that believed in him and continued to push him. So I'll ask one final question, and then if we have any questions, I failed to say this earlier, but if you have any questions, throw those in the chat. We'll try to answer those really quick. One final question for you, Coach. You've seen all of these players, you've been overseas, you've been here, you've been at every level of the game. How has your coaching career impacted the way that you handle personal things in life? And the way that you deal with your family and kind of your home team?
Well, it really has been, I suppose, between the Christian faith and basketball, and I think they're one and the same. Again, there's a connection. I have a thing I speak on called God relationships and basketball. And so those things have been the factors that guided my decision-making for the most part throughout. And, you know, the book I wrote on Point about 4 steps to better life teams. I indicate how your businesses are a life team, and but you're born into a life team, and then normally, you know, most of us get married, have a family, and that's a very central life team that you need to work to develop the relationships. And with my own family, with 5 kids, basketball's been a big part of it. And so obviously a lot of illustrations and things like that I've drawn from my basketball experience. And my oldest son is the assistant GM of the Golden State Warriors. Been with them 14 years, been in the league 34 now, 20 with the Bucks. And then all my kids had basketball scholarships to go to college. And all of them have done something in teaching basketball, even though for their professions, only my oldest and my youngest do basketball for a living. My daughter is a physical therapist, but she's also coached the girls team at Second Baptist in Houston. And she played at Marquette. And my second one is a businessman and in the packaging business, and he coached kids. And so did my son in Houston, who has his own concrete business. And he coached kids in young kids. So this is something that I think basketball relates to life. And anyway, that's, by the way, I didn't even recognize Alex, without her hair down. Anyway, she's one of our team for sure. And we do have great people on our team. And so we miss all of you folks and surely appreciate you listening to me carry on. If you haven't noticed, once I get started, it's hard to stop me.
Well, and the problem is that I love to hear you tell stories, so it's hard for me to keep it business focused, because I'm like, I just want to hear some more basketball stories. Let's talk about Space Jam a little bit. So I did my best to keep us on topic this morning. We did have one question come in on the chat asking about your community outreach efforts and why that's so important to you, and why you guys have continued to be such a strong thread in this community.
Well, I must say in the last few years, after having been in the NBA spotlight for so many years, here in Frisco, where we've lived now for a little over 20 years, I have become known as Ann Harris's husband. She, whatever I've done in the community, she's done it multiplied by a lot. And so I try to support her where I can in those endeavors, but we've had a lot of projects to do with homelessness and hunger and just so many other things that have to do with community life here. I was fortunate to be the treasurer for the great Mayor Masso in those years that he was mayor, and right now is the besides being on the board of 3 charities and 2 that she started and helped start, I should say, and so forth. She is the chairman of the campaign chair for Angelia Pelham, who's running for city council, and a lady that those of you here in Frisco need to check out. She's quite a lady, I must say.
So I think that the moral of that story is find you a life partner, just like business partners. Build your team around you that makes you look good. That's the moral of that story.
That's a good one.
Well, I think that that's all for us today. Coach, thank you again so much for being here. And thank you guys all for joining us. We will do some networking after this. So we're going to break up into rooms.
Well, One last thing. You know, our reach is all the way to Phoenix, by the way, you know, in case some of you didn't know, in that upper left-hand corner above John Robinson, you got the great Brian Wood. So just all you folks, so I can't call you all out here, but just appreciate you being on board and listening to an old guy talk.
Absolutely. Thank you, Coach.